Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the best football insert designs of 1994. If you're looking for a list of really fun and exciting cards, this is not the list because I've always had a strong appreciation for really well crafted cards that look elegant and that look gorgeous. And that doesn't mean there's not fun on this list, but in 1994, football card designers were at a whole nother level than everybody else. They basically stepped past and made an amazing array of cards that were just so well crafted that's pretty much what we're looking at on this list. Not entirely, but pretty close to that. And on top of that, there's so much really impressive insert designs for 1994 that I've got 12 cards, which really it's 9 cards. But I've got a couple that are 2 cards that are kind of like the same thing, even though they are different inserts from the same set or basically from different releases. But they work kind of hand in hand. So this is not going to be an overly cumbersome list, but it's there's a lot on here because it was really cool seeing all these great designs. And you should see the designs I left off of this list too. So I do have a top 5.5. But a number of honorable mentions I do need to bring up, starting with Stadium Club Super Teams. Now, Super Teams were good cards. This was one of those reliable sets that Stadium Club put out. It's a contest, and so there's nothing really special about the cards except you get an opportunity for some interesting images. But in football, they did something special where they chromed the background behind the players. And this made the card read in a very distinct way. On top of that, they have a cool copper holofoil that is kind of weird. And that's part of what makes these cards so great, is the fact that that holofoil is so unusual, but the whole chroming of the card makes the card vibrant in an unusual way. Really cool cards. Not the greatest cards in the world, but look, they are among the most distinctive cards that you're going to find from the 1990s, and the 1990s has some pretty distinctive cards. I also need to go over to Fleer and look at the Fleer Living Legends and the Ultra Stars cards. Here these cards are kind of, so one of the cards is etched metal, the other is brushed metal, and they have their own effects, but what makes both effects work so well is the fact that the cards are not cumbersome. The backgrounds are monochromatic, allowing all of the design work of the metal effects to read beautifully. Now, the reason I have it here is because it would be nice for them to have something more to it than just those overly dominant background colors, but when they do colors for these types of cards in 1994, they don't tend to do too well. It's really in 1995 when we start to see them figure it out. And that's why these cards stand here, because of the fact that the concept is so clear on the cards and they look really good. So as much as I would really love to put them higher on the list, there's not much going on with these cards. Now, over at Upper Deck, they had something very different going on where they had their holograms in special cards. SP HoloView is what everybody else knew about, or I shouldn't say everybody else knew about, but outside of football, SP HoloView was a set that people were at least familiar with. And baseball had basically the same design. I like it, but I like a lot better the Upper Deck Pro Bowl cards, because this is a card that is more straightforward, simplistic, and allows the design themes to read more effectively. The hologram is smaller, but that's okay because it is just a little accent on the card. And then what's really cool about these cards is that there's a holofoil spirit to the way the card works, and so there's an iridescent quality that's very unique to the cards and makes it really fun, as the kind of card that a baseball card collector would probably look and go, why didn't we have one of those? So I think that that's the stronger of the two, but still, these are really cool cards with the holograms embedded into these very lacquered surfaces that they don't even look like cardboard in any fashion. So they're really nice, but again, not quite at the level that I'm looking for here. And then the last honorable mention I got to bring up is the Pro Line MVPs. I mean, these are really cool. And this is the gateway into the top 5, because this is basically the lead into what we're going to be seeing from here on out. Strong colors, strong colors. Here they have the band up at the top with the 2 team colors, and then they have 4 images of the player, and they're all very heavily saturated. And that's what makes the card work so well, is the strength of the colors popping through. And there's a vibrance to seeing all these images, along with a very clean, precise design and a big splash of gold foil right in the middle that is a nice complement. But the card is a little bit chaotic. There's a lot going on, and that's the reason that it doesn't make the top 5. But as you'll see, it very much is the lead into what we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at. And the first stop I make with the top 5 is at number 5 with Upper Deck Predictors. Now, the Predictors cards this is something that we saw in other sports, but it's like these cards were specifically designed for football. They're very unique in terms of how they read with football for one simple reason. So you have all that team color on the card, which reads so well on these cards. But then the images for football, it's a lot easier to isolate the player with strong colors on the player's uniform, which means that now the player's uniform works with the border and gives you such a heavy feeling of excitement about being a fan. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the San Francisco 49ers or the Miami Dolphins or the Colts or whatever team. I mean, for me, Bears and Broncos really didn't show up here in the set, so I didn't have my own team to root for. But looking at these other teams, I'm excited about each one of these teams and the players on the team, and that's what's so great. I get excited as a football card fan looking at these cards that are just glorious celebrations of the team. But what is really significant about all that color is that it overpowers the gold foil. The gold foil can easily dominate these cards, but in this case, it's all about the team colors. And with the rich saturation, dude, they come through so well. Now for me, number 4 is the Fleer Scoring Machines cards. And this is a card this is a fun design that also has the formality that I like looking at. Here, the horizontal design of the card has a team color in the background, which already gets you in the mood. And then it has the 3 shots of the player. But this is a clinic on how to not crowd a card, because there are 3 shots of the same player. Great. But it's very clear. The middle shot of the player, that is the whole focus of the card. That's it. That's the key. The 2 shots on the sides, they're a little bit muted, and so they are accents to the main image. So when you look at the image, or when you look at the card, everything is clear. You understand exactly what's going on, who the card's about. It's a card that's easy to read, and it feels kind of spacious. You actually do feel the amount of background behind, even though it's mostly on the top and the bottom. Still, the way that they designed it with the color fade, so that the middle area, which is busy, you don't notice that the background's missing, because that's not the part of the background that's important. It's the top and the bottom that's the part that's important. Somebody at Fleer really knew what they were doing here with this card. And I am so impressed by it, and I've always really liked these cards. Now, number 3, I have classic NFL Experience limited print cards and the SP cards as well. This is a case where you have 2 sets that are basically the same set. And these cards are really, really impressive. Now, these cards follow the same thing as I talked about with the Predictors cards, but the Predictors cards are overpowering. In this case, it's more about subtlety. You still have a great shot of the player, very well isolated, rich colors, really saturated. And then the border has a team color on it, but here it's a faded out color. So it's only a part of it has the color, but then you have a really nice fade to white, which gives a cool, elegant quality to it. They have a little bit of gold foil in the border with the player name and then the theme on it, which just gives a little bit of an accent, not too much. And then I love the logo tucked up in the corner, which is a highly underappreciated aspect of this design. Like in my case, I didn't really notice it until I did this. And once I noticed it, I realized how important it was to make the whole card read. Not that if you got rid of it, it would hurt the card, but you got to put the logo somewhere, and that logo is uniquely equipped to look great on this card. But a big part of what makes the card read is something you might have not have even really noticed, which is that there's a gold seal down the opposite corner. And this is really impressive because Donruss did kind of the same thing over in hockey where they had a big silver seal. Well, this is a small seal, it's gold, and it's heavily embossed, so it reads clearly, but the big thing is it's small, so it's like an accent, and it's designed to read with the gold foil of the text in the border. And what it does is it gives you the feeling of a complete border, so everything feels governed, but the border or the image, the background image is still able to run off of two sides, so you get that as well. So it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you a grounded card and it gives you the openness in a wonderful combination. I love how these cards look. Now, number 2 is where I just gotta say, look, there is definitely a big kid in me that will never leave, and for the Fleer Ultra inserts of Flair. The hot numbers and the scoring powers cards, love these cards. I just absolutely love these two cards. And in fact, these two cards look like they're from the same set, just like different themes. Because Flair was not released as a main set in football in 1994, it was instead as inserts. They were able to play around with them and treat them in a way that they didn't in the other sports. And that is why these cards are so, I mean, this is Candyland. If you want to know what Candyland looks like, this is Candyland. Absolutely. Way too much saturation of the color. Absolutely too much. And I'm good with it. I actually have always loved these. Not so much the Rookie Wave cards, but for these two, this is so cool. Now, the Hot Numbers card is interesting where this is the same design as they used in baseball. But in baseball, they used a frosted surface, which allowed the richness that was the potential to be lost. Here, they got rid of that and they just allowed all the colors to pop out. Now, in baseball, they didn't need to make it this strong, but this is basically what the design looks like. In case you're wondering what the baseball design, what was at its root. This is it, a bunch of angled lines and yeah, a lot of crazy stuff. But this is, here in football, this is Mardi Gras. I mean, the colors are so dominant. And then over at Scoring Powers, they simplified it and allowed the colors to be even richer and stronger. And so the combination of these two sets this is where I as a kid just go, dude, I just love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Is it too much? Heck yeah, sign me up, absolutely. But as much as that kid loves to show up, the adult in me definitely is going to show up as well. And so for me, number 1 is the Fleer Rookie Sensations cards. These are not rookie cards. These are looking back at the conclusion of the rookie years of the previous year's rookies. But look at this card. Now for me, this is a card that is not as much fun as the ones that I just looked at. In fact, I tend to like the other ones better. But whenever I go through these cards, every time I land on the Rookie Sensation cards, every time I land on it, I just go, wow, that is so impressively nice. How in the world did Fleer come up with that? I mean, Fleer is not supposed to be the company that's coming up with this and the Scoring Machines cards, and yet they absolutely did. These cards are way above their pay grade, even though in 1993, Fleer did show a penchant for making some really good inserts. These still surprise me. But the Rookie Sensations cards, what I like about it is that it takes a situation that should not work and it makes it work with the gold foil text on it. The way that comes across, and there's a cleanness to it that always comes through. Again, it's not my favorite card. It's not the card I would prefer looking at. It's just the card that I keep running into and stopping and going, wow, that's amazing. That's the best way to describe this card. It's an interesting place for me to land, but I'm going to have to take this one and say, for me, this is the best card. So I'm sure that you guys probably have a very different view of that. Let me know in the comments below. And obviously, when I do the rank or the poll for it, you guys can let me know your take on it there as well. Now, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I do urge you to do so and ring the bell to be notified. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.